We're very excited to have Bravo Studio, so Toby Oliver, CEO of Bravo Studio, joining us today. I guess from our side, while we got really excited when we heard about the product that they're building over there at Bravo, is the fact of when we're building a lot of no-code applications, we tend to get straight into an app builder and worry about design second and sort of build apps with, maybe some of you have heard about Bubble, where you can just go in and without actually writing code, you can build a fully fledged web app. But it was really interesting to see the different take that Bravo have had on this, whereas all you need is a design file, and then they basically take care of the rest for you, which is really exciting. So with that, I guess I'll hand over to Toby. Maybe you can give a quick introduction, and then, yeah, we can get stuck into the demo.
Awesome. Thanks, Jan. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Hopefully this will be useful. Jan, can I just share my screen so I just go through my slides? Is that okay? Let me just do that. Okay, so let me do that. Okay, so see my screen okay? Yep. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it in the view mode of the slides just because it's easier and not like to break anything. I'm just going to go through sort of four main points. I think this is a usual format. First of all, talking about Bravo and where the ideas came from and what we're trying to do. They'll talk a little bit about the use cases that we've seen with people using Bravo and where you can get a lot of value from it. And then probably the most interesting thing, I'll go and do a bit of a demo to show how Bravo works, because I think that's always interesting. And then we can answer some questions along the way. I don't know, are you someone monitoring the chat just to see if people ask questions there so we can pick it up? Okay.
Exactly. So if everyone feel free, use the chat for questions. And then, yeah, either some maybe we save to the end, but if there are some that are sort of poignant to what we're talking about, I'll jump in.
Yeah, just let me know, and I won't look at it, but if you let me know if there's a question comes up, we can do that. Awesome. Okay, so Bravo. So where did Bravo come from? So Bravo is really the accumulation of lots of things. I had some ideas. I used to be the CTO at Typeform for a few years, and there were three things that really struck me when I was there. Because when I was there, I did a lot of the integration work and the creation of the API. The APIs opened up integration with Typeform with a lot of other tools, and really it was interesting for me because I really understood. It really showed me the power of what APIs can do, but also Typeform showed me how important design was. And Typeform was very much it's driven by the sort of the beauty of the design, and that's a critical piece in really creating a engaging product. And then the final piece that I learned, we actually at Typeform tried to build a mobile application, and it was so painful that we didn't actually go out the door. So there were three things that struck me while I was at Typeform, and around about 2019, I met a team that had been building a bunch of mobile tools for a while and had some really interesting ideas. And so we kind of came together and tried to bring all these ideas together and create Bravo, really to be a way to help people build mobile applications in a really easy way, leveraging design as the most important part, but also really trying to drive all the logic from APIs. Think of it like a UI for APIs. So like Zapier, but just connecting to a UI rather than doing a lot of logic, because that tries to really try and unlock the power of the design and try and leverage all these amazing tools and sort of third-party pieces of software that was out there. So we came together in 2019. We took us probably most of that year to actually make the first version. We started testing sort of subscriptions in 2020, and then we've just been adding features ever since. We initially really focused on designers because we thought they would be able to benefit the most from this. And although there is a very useful story with Bravo, I think what we're seeing is the people who are getting the most value from Bravo are like the sort of product owners or people who need to have, who really care about design and need to have the ability to iterate very quickly on mobile. That's really where I think we're seeing the most traction, and that's really come in this year. We have a lot more traction as we're changing our focus. So although we help designers, the business people who need to get something, use something, I think is where we're getting the most interest at the moment. So that's just a bit of background to Bravo. I'm just going to jump onto the use cases. So really, Bravo, it can be used in a ton of places. we're finding people using Bravo is really helpful, even just to do prototyping. So often, often people use tools like Figma or Adobe XD, or shall I just say Adobe Figma now? I don't know, because I guess XD is going to die. They often wireframe out their designs. But the thing is, when you do that, one of the real big pain points is that getting real data into that is super annoying. There's a lot of tools that help get fake real data, but I mean, it was interesting. I saw there was one of the sort of delivery companies, they spent hours trying to recreate their menus, because you can imagine how many big their menus are and what does that actually look like. To prototype that takes a long time. And what Bravo does is its connection, really strong a connection to APIs, where API is almost like a first-class citizen in this, makes that sort of process much easier. And so you can prototype and do really advanced prototyping with Bravo super easily, because what we actually found was that when you prototype, the closer you get to real life, then that's how important the prototypes are. But actually, the closer you get, you might as well just use the product. If it scales, then you might as well just keep using it. And so what's happening is that people are kind of starting using Bravo, they're prototyping, they're trying out ideas, and then they're going to take it into MVPs and all the way to full applications. Because the beauty of Bravo is, unlike some of the no-code tools, we don't say you have to use our backend or use this database, or you have to scale up with us. We just connect to APIs. So you can connect Bravo, everything from Airtable to keep it simple, all the way through to some hardcore, NoSQL database connect on AWS. Really, so long as you've got the API connection to it, Bravo can work with it. And that gives you a huge sort of range of tools to work with and makes scaling much, much easier. So you can really not worry about that piece, because the Bravo application is running a mobile device. The backend is wherever you put it. So it gives you a lot more flexibility. So yeah, as I was saying, people go through prototyping through to MVPs. But also, we're seeing lots of people use it for full applications. Having the ability to work with their design and just connect to their backend they already have is incredibly powerful for them. So we've had people using content creators, e-commerce sites, real estate applications. This is part of their product. This isn't like just a test. This is something they're using in the real world and earning money from. So you really can use Bravo in all sorts of places. But obviously, the most relevant, I think, for today is internal applications. And so that's what I'm going to focus on now. And there's a bunch of things we've seen with that. We've had people use connected to Factorial, which is an HR tool in Europe, to get a lot of the HR data, and then as well as that, combine it with a sort of KPI dashboard from data from Notion, all within one single application. And again, this is the beauty of using APIs, is that it enables you to bring data in from multiple different places. And Bravo can kind of concentrate that and present that combination in a really sort of seamless way. The other thing, and this is the demo I'm going to do today, which is a simple kind of internal issues application based on Airtable. So what I will do now is I'll talk through how that works, and all the different pieces involved in that. Okay, I don't know if there's answer any questions at this point before I jump into the demo. Has anyone want to say anything?
I don't think so. I think everyone's just everyone's
waiting. Okay. All right, so let's start. Okay, so this is I'm just jumped to Airtable now. So this is Airtable. Now I guess most people would probably have seen this, but for those that haven't, I mean, Airtable is basically like Excel in the cloud. The really nice thing about Airtable, from our perspective, is they always had a very strong API, a well-documented API for it. So everything you can access through API. So you can add data, you can delete data, you can change a bunch of stuff all through APIs really nice and easily. So this example, what I've got here is this is, if you imagine an application whereby for maintenance. So this is all the issues that people have selected. What happens is there's the name of the issue, description of it, whether it's completed or not. Someone's taken a picture of what needs to be done, urgency, and also a location. So this is kind of the existing data. And what I want to do is show you how that kind of maps onto Bravo and how we use that in that. So if you can imagine, we've got this data, we've got two views in our table. So this views are sorted on the status. So obviously the open ones are not solved, and then the solved ones are solved. Okay, so that's the data we're starting with. Now, normally when you ask someone to build any kind of application these days, they'll start with something like this. So this is a design of an application in Figma. So if you can imagine, people will lay out all the screens. What they've got here, someone said, okay, I want the sort of depending issues or the open issues to look like this. This is one single issue, what it looks like. And then when I click on it, it want it to look like this. And then with the solved issues or completed ones, a single issue will look like this. There'll be a list of them below. And then if you click on one, it will go to that as a detail. And then, for adding a new issue, we'll have this kind of form to make it to collect the data. Okay. And then, they might say, okay, as well as that, just so I can see everything, let's have an interest screen that looks like this. And let's have, an icon for the application here and a splash screen, and maybe a loading state. So, really, these are all the sorts of things that you'd have in a normal application as it's being created. There's not really doing anything different here. The only real difference we go beyond with Bravo is that you've probably seen some of these we call them tags, but annotations in the layer names. And what these do is they basically are sort of directives to Bravo to help understand exactly what you want to get done. So, for example, this here is a modal page, 90% on the screen, and also we're saying I want to have the location, because what we're going to do is it will actually pick up the location. This will mean that the location is available in that form to be stored in the database so that we can use it later on. You can highlight transitions, to pull on refresh. And then over here this is an intro, so it knows that to play that before the actual application starts. And then this is a icon asset and icon splash screen. So really, we're just annotating a few things to help know how everything works. That's what we do different from Bravo. I mean, the great thing about the wireframing tools is that even the prototyping parts can be used. So this is the native feature of Figma, where we can say, okay, this button goes to this screen, this button goes back to this screen, and you can kind of focus in to understand the flow. So it makes it much more visual how the app is built. And we're really leveraging the power of these design tools. When we looked at this, we're like, why do we want to try and build a design tool when there's a really good design tool we can leverage? So it's trying to, how do we make the most out of that? Is really what we're trying to do with Bravo. So this is pretty much, it's generally how people lay out applications when they're thinking about the workflow, and it's at this point that we can put it into Bravo. So what we can do is we can take that URL, and then we can jump into, I'm just going to jump to Bravo now, and we're going to create a new app. So I drop it into the Figma file, and now we're pulling in the file, all the design, that navigation, all the parts of the design that are in Figma. But more importantly, we're actually creating a connection between this Bravo design and the Figma file, so we can update changes in the future. Okay.
Toby, just a question from my side. Does this require any sort of Figma paid plan, or would you be able to do this directly from the free Figma
You can
plan?
do it from the free plan. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the advantage of the paid plan really gives you the collaboration features. There's nothing about extra you need for that. We're just leveraging core Figma functionality. Okay, so now we're in Bravo. Now it's at this point here, I could actually publish this as an APK or an IPA and put it in the App Store. So I can do that from just what I've done now. What it's done is it's pulled the design in, it's kind of connected it to our kind of kernel, and it displays it. And in fact, what I can do, so on the right hand side of the screen, you can see my mobile phone. I'm just gonna let me just go back so you can see the app in there now. Let's exit the app. Okay, so if you see, you've got two issue trackers. One I've already finished, but this is the one I've just imported. And I think what you can see here is, you can see there's the intro screen. I can press on it. Now, it's exactly how it was before, right? You can see the fact that we've got all the screens as before. I think if I click on this, it goes into the detail, but this is all like the boilerplate that's come from Figma. There's nothing very exciting in here. It's not dynamic at this point. It's just purely coming in from Figma. Really, what the interesting part of Bravo is when you connect it to APIs. So you can actually start connecting it to the Airtable through an API. So let me just go into that. Now, what you can do, the APIs can be quite difficult to set up. I think that's one of the challenges, I think, where people, aren't comfortable with them. What we've done is we've created a bunch of import wizards to make this process a bit easier, where you can actually pull in the data. To be fair, Airtable has literally today made a change, which is making it not work properly. So I'm not going to show it live right now, but effectively what it does, you can see this is an Airtable import. And what it will do is it will generate a list of APIs on the left here based on the data. So if I look at, let's pick out one. So look, list open issues. If you can see this, this is an Airtable request listing all the issues. And I just jump back to it quickly so you can see that. So this is the issues table, and there's the open view. And so this is all this is doing is pulling that list in. So if I click send, you can see that it pulls in all this data just from Airtable. And then what happened, the next step is you say, okay, this is the data from Airtable. These are the fields I'm interested in. I want the record ID, I want the urgent label, I want the URL to the image, the just name, description, and latitude and longitude. That's the things I'm interested in. So you just click on those bits of information, and then for the different APIs you want to connect, and then you go back to your app. This is the one I've connected, and let's show you that in this table. So on this screen, we'll say, okay, what do I want to connect? So the first thing is, you see there's an issue item. That issue item, and I'm going to jump around a bit just so people can kind of see what's happening here. See issue item, this icon is a frame. So if I go back to the Figma file and I look at the list of open items, so this one here, if we click on this frame here, you can see the issue item is this frame here, okay? So in Bravo, when I say issue item, what it's saying is it's the frame that contains this whole box. And I can connect that to a list and to records. And what that means is that this entire box will be duplicated by the number of items that come in from the API. So we actually make design dynamic based on the data that's coming in. And then what we do is we say, okay, so we made this whole box replicate, and then within it we want to say, okay, issue name goes to name, image goes to image, URL, urgent goes to urgent, and then I think we've got a remote action based on that tick box to make it complete or not. So we can basically just very easily connect the API to the design, and then we're done. Okay, so if you remember on the left right hand side here, this is my app, which is boring because there's no data here. Doesn't redo anything. If I now go into the other app, I switch it to the app which has been connected with APIs. 1 second, exit this one. And if I go into the app with APIs, this is the earlier one. So go inside it, and you'll see now all the data is coming in, the images are being pulled in, everything's being updated, and it scrolls nicely, all from the APIs that are coming from Airtable. So the Airtable is driving this app completely. And you can see that going to completed gives me the list of, there's a splash screen, there's a list of closed apps, sorry, closed issues. I can click on this button to say, oh, actually, you know what, it's not finished. And what I do is well, it's gone into it. Let me just press that button properly. Let me see if I can do that. Is it going to work? Yeah, see there, it's gone back into the pending item because it's opened up again. I can do a bunch of things. And what's interesting, I think what's really nice about this, let me just try creating another new issue. So this is a form completion. So let's call this think I've gone into, this is, I think it's using my other keyboard. 1 second. Let's try using Samsung keyboard. Okay, there we go. So let's call this new issue 1, text. And then I'm just going to show you, this is where it gets really nice. So purely with a tag in this field of saying use the camera, I've enabled all this ability to capture images. So I can then go into my camera and I'll just take a picture of my mouse here. There we go. So, and oops, right, there it is. Then, well, that's fine. And then that loads, that brings it in. And what happens in the background here is that then has been, you don't have to worry any of this stuff. That's been brought into AWS, it's been resized, it's been generated as a URL that we can then use back into Airtable. And I'm going to say this is not really urgent. So, sorry, I can do it on my phone here. It's not urgent, let's go to false. And I submit an issue. Now, hopefully you can see that, and the issues come in. And really, we're really just leveraging the Airtable data here. And I'll just show you that where we can show that. So me filling out that form, just connect to the APIs. There's my new issue. There's the image come in. It's also recorded my latitude and longitude because we were able to pick out the GPS coordinates from the phone. And if I go into that issue, you can actually see, we actually then connect up to Google Maps, and that's my address. That's where I'm sitting right now. So we've actually connected it back to a Google Map and updated them at Google Map with my location, purely based by just using these tags in Airtable. So there's a huge amount of functionality you can have without really doing much coding, just by leveraging these tools. Leveraging Airtable, leveraging the power of the phone can give you access to, you know, a huge amount of features. And look, I just show you, you know, that it works both ways. So I can, for example, let me first show you, let's say I want to say now it's urgent in Airtable, and on my phone, if I pull down, then you should see that the tag come up. I mean, so it syncs, it's pulling data live from Airtable. Probably the more interesting thing for some people is often, you know, being dynamic from Airtable is one thing, but making the design dynamic, that's a lot harder. Again, the beauty of Bravo, and this is where many tools can't replicate, we can actually change the design easily too. So I'm just going to change the design now. So this is not coming from Airtable, this is coming from Figma. I can say, right, I'm going to change the design because, in fact, that's not quite a bit, that's not very good. I'm changing pending to do. Okay, so let's change that on my open issue state. So that's it. I then jump back to Bravo and say, you know, I've made a change. Let's pull that in. And what that's doing is now pulling in any changes from Figma into Bravo. And then that's done. You should see, if I come out of here, hopefully it'll update. There you can see it's updated on that screen. And then on my phone on the right-hand side, I just need to refresh the app. So I sync it with any changes. And then you should see when I go into it, it's changed it to do. So you can change the design that fast as well. You're not just changing data, you're changing the whole design, which means really that you can iterate incredibly fast. And this is what, you know, our users really love it. Once they get the hang of how it all works together, they realize that they can, you know, particularly in things where the actual product is not well specified and you need to change it frequently, this sort of power is incredible. Being able to connect the design and collaborate on the design and push those changes through to an app that goes live into production this quickly is a really, really big help for a lot of people. Okay, so that's probably some of the core features of Bravo. What I just want to do now is, well, actually, that's the core sort of flow, but I want to show you is the depth of Bravo. I mean, we've put a lot of work into this over the last couple of years. And these are sort of the things that you can do, like in the way that we've integrated the GPS and the camera. You can access login with a ton of different tools, you know, Firebase, OAuth, and even custom login. We can do notifications. We're leveraging OneSignal for that, but it means that you can push notification to groups of users. We can take payments with Stripe, and Revenue Cat lets you do in-app purchases. This is really interesting because that's really hard to do normally. And again, this is a big differentiator from web apps. You know, in-app purchases, the friction in that purchase is so low that if you can enable it, it means that you have a huge opportunity to increase your revenue. Deep linking is something that's not obvious to people, but really important. What this means is you can send a link to a phone and it goes directly into the application. So I can actually tell it to open that app on this page, for example, and also set state for that page as well at the same time. And so it goes kind of hand in hand with notifications, but it's often, you know, when you want to notify somebody of a particular change or an update and get them straight into the application that's relevant, that's powerful. It's very powerful. And it's also, again, where we differentiate over a lot of the sort of web progressive web apps. You know, the notifications and deep linking like that is difficult for them to do in the same way. We've literally, I think, last week enabled chat. So let me actually, I'll just see if I can show you that on my phone. I'm just gonna, well, actually, let me just show you how easy, again, leveraging the power of Bravo to make the chat easy. And let me just show you that on here. I think it's this one. So this is a chat application, another application similar as before. And the way we implement chat, because we're leveraging another third party like we do with Revenue Cat for in-app purchase, we use Comet Chat for this. But because we've integrated the way Bravo works, you literally just need to say, hey, this screen is a chat. And then we say, you know, the sort of topic it is and the type of chat it is. And then that's all you need to do. You drop in the config for it. And then what it creates, and I'll just show you it on here, second. And then you get that screen then becomes this fully functioning chat with the ability to take pictures, share files, share location. You don't have to worry about anything. You can just drop it in. And it becomes, and that the Comet Chat has a huge number of extensions, everything from real-time translation through to content moderation as well. So, you know, Bravo is really about unlocking and connecting together these powerful third-party services to enable you to get your stuff done really fast, basically. Let's jump back to Bravo again. And then the other things we've got obviously is multi-language is another useful feature, but it's really, there's a ton of features we've enabled that kind of help you to, you know, just get your work done faster, basically. I think the only other thing that I want to mention a little bit is, you know, how you use Bravo. I mean, you don't just have to use it in the App Store, publish in the App Store. One of the advantages of Bravo is you can actually use an application because it's a fully functioning application in this feature, this app that I'm using here, which is our what we call the Bravo Vision. You can actually effectively use that like a trial, a mini App Store, and you can actually you know, you can play with these apps, and for small groups of people, not only can you try it out, but you could actually use it internally. So, you know, you could take the app that I was showing you that did this task app. You could actually use that because there's nothing, the data is not in the app, the data is on your Airtable. So you can actually use internally to try things out or actually use them in small groups in that way. But then if you want to use in bigger groups, you can use things such as test flight or, you know, Firebase app distribution to actually sort of publish it into small groups internally. And even now, and also now, both the iOS App Store and Google Play Store let you create unlisted test groups. So you can actually publish into full App Store and only let certain people access them. So there's a lot of ways of getting these full applications out there that can leverage the power of your phone and the features of your phone without necessarily having to do a full publish into the App Store. I think that's the main things I wanted to go through. I know it was probably a bit fast in some areas. I'm happy to go back over some things if people want to, because I guess it was a bit
We
quick.
do have a question in the chat, Toby. First of all, thanks
Sure.
for the amazing demo. It's crazy how smooth it all works. But yeah, question from the chat. So do you have an example of a client that developed an app or business with Bravo, including a payment option?
Yes, we have a couple actually. So let's think. Let me I'm just going to go to the Bravo website. So we have a few listed on here. There's a couple more we haven't got listed. So if you go to resources and made with Bravo. So I think this one here is an LGBTQ advice website that has in-app purchasing, for example, whereby they are, they're creating a community around that. And, there's a payment option there. And again, we're using payments through the in-app purchases for that one. We've also got another one that is currently, we've got like we've got a lot of content creators. We've got another one where as a content creators for sort of mothers who work, again, content where there's in-app purchases that they're using to unlock that. We've got a few people who are doing bookings with Stripe because we take Stripe payments as well. So we've got a few. I think really the content creators is a huge one for us because they want to have their own design, particularly. That's really important to them. A lot of the sort of tools that let work with content creators right now have very limited design changes. So you end up all the apps look the same, whereas we have that full design flexibility, but still having that core functionality. So we've got quite a few apps like that right now.
Really cool. Another question that's just popped in. So David asked, can you also render a web version of the app, or is it strictly to be used via a phone?
So this is an interesting question. At the moment, we don't do a web version. I mean, it kind of the product lends itself quite well to being, we could generate a web version. The reason we haven't done this is there's quite a lot of good web tools out there already. So, I think our feeling is we want to get mobile we want to help mobile as much as possible. And then particularly when we've got all the integrations and things set up, then it makes sense for us to look at maybe doing a web or figuring out how to help people solve the web part. But, we're not really planning to do anything on that space at the moment because it's so much covered.
Got it. And are you on the mobile side, are you facing many difficulties from, I guess, like Apple every week changing their like restrictions and their rules? Is that a lot like one of the pain points for you guys in terms of making sure the apps aren't getting blocked?
Look, the thing is, the beauty of this is that we really put a lot of effort to playing by the rules. I mean, one of the things Apple is concerned about is you're not supposed to download code on your app, and so a lot of the other app makers have a lot of issues with this because they naturally have to download code. By leveraging APIs, we're not downloading code. Nothing in our app changes. The design changes, but the app doesn't change. The code isn't there. It's code somewhere else. And the other advantage is actually that pain that a lot of other people who build up their own apps feel. That's the whole purpose of something like Bravo. We kind of take that away. One of the things we talk about Bravo is like mobile development as a service. If you've got a design and you've got a backend, don't forget about the mobile piece. We'll do the mobile piece for you. And so, because we're constantly building apps all the time, we're bringing in and managing all the latest releases of iOS or Android. So we're able to help people upgrade. Whereas normally when they're making an app, you make an app, you buy it once, you don't want to spend that money ever again. And yet 6 months later, you have to go back to it to upgrade it. Otherwise half the stuff doesn't work. The whole point with us is on Bravo, you could just download another version and upload it. And we're always uprated with the right level of the operating system. So it takes a lot of that pain away for people. And yeah, we've been really careful to make sure we play by the rules as well. So, it hasn't been a problem for us so far.
Yeah, it's a really smart, like I remember the previous company I worked for was also an app, and there were moments when Apple rejects your latest update and then all hell breaks loose. So the fact that you're taking care of that for thousands of developers at once is really cool. We do have another question as well that's just come in. Could you share some of the big features that's on your roadmap, like what will be coming in the next year?
So, I mean, actually, I think we have the roadmap on here, actually. Let me have a look. Can I, do we have got it here? Maybe we've changed it. So look, I think the big thing that we're thinking about next is around teams and how people collaborate. I mean, we kind of really try and leverage the collaboration of Figma. I mean, Figma is a fantastic tool for sort of multiplayer collaboration anyway. So the design, because we work with tools like Figma that do that, you kind of get the design collaboration built in with Bravo anyway. The thing that we're now looking at doing is making collaboration work in other parts of the actual app. So, around the APIs and just making sure that it's easy for teams to work on Bravo together. That's probably the main sort of big one we're thinking about next. But there's lots of people are asking for stuff all the time, and so it's just trying to figure out how we prioritize, like everybody these days.
Yeah. And in terms of like the phone native features, so you mentioned like the camera and the location, are there any there that sort of aren't there yet, but you have on your radar, or?
There's a few things. I mean, chat was a big one for us. That was, well, I mean, chat's not really a native feature. We'd like to do some stuff with Bluetooth. I think really what we're trying to do is make sure to help us really differentiate away from progressive web apps, because if you can do it in a progressive web app, that's fair enough, do it in that. What I think is interesting is when we can do things you can't do there. So notifications, in-app purchases, super valuable for the people that need that. Bravo's a fantastic tool. If you don't need that, maybe a progressive web app does the job. So, it's really trying to hone in on those ones, I think, to make sure that we get them, help people get the most out of their phones. I mean, one thing, again, that a lot of people don't realize is that mobile phones are the dominant, although the web is dominant in the West, in a lot of other parts of the world, the mobile phone is the dominant one. And there are so few tools that help people create easily. There's a lot of work to be done in helping unlocking the power of tools for everybody. So there's working on the phone features is a really important thing.
Cool, thanks. And 2 questions from David. So first of all, David wants to know if there's any discount codes going. And secondly is, can the app detect the user for marking database changes?
So can you explain that last one again?
Can the app detect the user for marking database changes? I guess it'd be like permission rules, right? If you have login, can you?
Oh yeah, so again, we've got a couple of ways of doing that. So if we have an Airtable, so there's something simple with Airtable, there's no login at all. We do actually, we use there's a phone device ID, so you can actually differentiate devices just on device ID. So even without login, you can do that. When we actually use login, so if I just show you this, login. When we have login, when you actually enable that, in each instance, we actually have behind the scenes have a JWT, which actually has the user ID available, and that's passed into the app. So the app knows if someone's logged in, their email address and their name, or whatever features are in the JWT, well, some of the features of the JWT. So you're able to know. And actually, what's great is within the actual APIs, you can actually pass through the login details. So there's a bunch of data, what we call variables, are available in the APIs, like the user ID, the device ID, the location, which we can pass into API requests to either store or to do certain actions or conditional behavior in the back end. So yeah, we've put some features in to let you do a lot more logic on the back end if you need to through the APIs.
Perfect. Yeah, that definitely answers the question. Yeah, maybe one more from my side. So what's the best way for someone to get started with Bravo? I've seen a lot of Figma files, and I would say safe to say that most Figma files aren't as organized as the ones you showed. So are there some templates that people can use to get started, or also like how can they learn the syntax in terms of the naming?
Yeah, so we have a ton of resources. So we've created sample apps. These are all Figma files. So you can do all these apps that we've created, showing you off the various features of Bravo. You can go in, see how we tag it up and how you use that. So you can start with those to learn about things. That's one thing. We've also got the crash course, which takes you through it. And we have a really detailed, we have some tutorials, and we have a really detailed help center as well, which answers a bunch of questions. So we have a lot of resources on Bravo that talk you through how to kind of get going and how it works. We've got a pretty strong community as well, with over 1,000 people there who you can ask questions of, and we kind of try and pop up and help occasionally. And obviously on the paid plan, if you need help, we can do that. We do also offer what we call the Bravo support package, where we can help people who are putting apps into production but they need more immediate help. We actually provide a direct Slack channel to our team to answer questions and to help them figure stuff out. So there's quite a lot of support if you need it, in various different places, and a lot of material. Actually, I didn't answer the question about the discount code. I think if I remember correctly, on our product hunt launch page, that discount code still works. So if you go to our product hunt launch page, if you look at Bravo Studio and Product Hunt, there is a discount code that will help you get some money off. So we'll even give you that as well.
Perfect. Cool. Nice. Another one that's just come in. Can you show us one of your favorite Bravo apps that was ever built by users?
So I think that I can show you, well, the one I can reference, I don't know if I can show it to you directly now, is probably, this is one of my favorites because this used a lot of features. We developed a lot of the shop live. We developed a lot of features around location, multilingual. There's a lot of, one of the nice things about Bravo is if you need to do anything super interactive or complex we don't support in tags, you can actually put a relatively seamless web view into the application on part of the screen. And so we had a number of places where we need to do something complex around location, where we dropped into a web view and then made it part of the application. So Shop Live was a bit of a, it was a big effort for us, all the features that went into that. So that's probably one I can sort of highlight as being, you know, a really quite complex app that looks, I mean, it looks great, and it has a ton of features in there.
Amazing. Cool. I think that's all. Any other questions, guys? Feel free to use in the chat, or Piv and Alex, anything from your side?
No, we're good.
There we go. The discount code's just been pasted into the chat.
There we go. That's how, yeah.
A few new users tonight, hopefully.
Hopefully, yes. That would be nice.
Perfect. All righty. Well, then if there's no more questions, Toby, thanks so much for your time.
No problem. Hope it was useful. And yeah, look, love to see what people build.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, I guess then we can wrap it up.
Guys, thanks for joining. Thanks, Toby. It was super nice. I think a lot of people there were super excited in the chat. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Wish you a good evening. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Cheers.